Greetings and welcome to Jefficho Films. Today we're going to talk about a 1995 movie about killer apes, directed by Frank Marshall, who did Arachnophobia, Alive, and Ape Below, also based on a Michael Crichton novel, loosely based. So let's review Congo. This movie starts out with shots of Africa, with 3 jeeps driving through and an expedition led by the sexiest man Bruce Campbell, who plays Charlie Travis, and he's headed on a hike to Mount Mukanko. He satellite chats with Dr. Karen Ross back in Houston, Texas, and the ground shakes. He tells her he found chemically flawless blue diamonds, alluvia. It powers a freaking laser. He goes to find his assistant Jeffrey, who shows him this path underwater to the secret lost location. Jeff takes a little too long to get his bag, and we experience the greatest travesty of this film, the implied death of Bruce Campbell.
Well, now you're throwing stuff at me?
Back in Houston, they activate the camera and see everybody dead, and a giant ape knocked the camera over. R.B. Travis, who's Charlie's dad, wants to keep this a secret. He says they'll close the borders if the country finds out. He needs those diamonds. Doesn't seem to care about his kid. Karen draws a line in the sand that this better be about finding Charlie when she gets sent off on an expedition. Then we meet Peter, who's training Amy with his research assistant. They're teaching her sign language, and he's also developed a technology for sign language to speak. And then the evil Tim Curry is watching and smiling.
How old are you?
Amy, 7. Amy, good gorilla. Amy, pretty.
Yes, you are.
This is a talking gorilla, Moira.
We learn Amy has nightmares, and she's been painting the jungle, so Peter thinks she wants to go home. Step in Curry with a Romanian accent.
I will pay for Amy to go home.
And who are you, sir?
Herkermer Homolka, formerly of Romania, free now of the chains of Ceausescu, traveling the world, doing good.
Peter meets Karen, and they discuss a hasty exposition. Curry says he doesn't have enough money for fuel for the plane, so they need Karen. No way would they ever allow a gorilla loose on a plane, and Peter says don't perpetuate the myth of a killer ape. And Amy has a drinking problem.
Are you serving that ape a martini?
She's allowed one, it'll calm her down.
Peter and Karen chat while everybody sleeps, and then the plane lands in Central Africa and they meet Eddie, a facilitator, who got them a new guide, Ernie Hudson, who plays Captain Monroe Kelly. And he's quite the rogue. He gets him a truck and he gets in there, and man, he is enjoying himself too much.
Whenever the leadership of one of these little Central African countries comes into question, they tend to just murder everybody.
Oh my god.
Not really. They live for the opportunity to settle scores, and they've got a lot of scores to settle.
Gets stopped and questioned, and Captain Wanta calls out Karen on her lies. Then he points out that Curry is a bag of shit and he owes money to a lot of people, but they bribe him, and he lets them go. They get the group back together, go through a couple more stops, and until they find a questionable plane. Eddie has a bunch of supplies and men, and they're all armed to the teeth. Monroe points out that Curry was looking for a lost city, and then the plane's under attack, and Karen does this brilliant thing where she gets a flare gun, and she fires it out the plane, and that's where the heat-sinking missile hits it. So they do that a few more times before the plane takes a shot. Jump out of the plane, so they send the cargo first. Monroe takes Amy with him, and then they all land safely. The plane doesn't fare too well. They head out through the jungle and set up tents. Karen calls Houston and says that she has a clear signal to the laser, and RB tells him that they got a clear picture of that gorilla and says it's something they've never seen before. And then Amy accidentally knocks over the camera, which makes RB think that she's been killed again. It's raining hard the next day, but it passes and then it's sunny. Amy's eating a banana, and then Peter wakes up and he has a leech on his dick, so Monroe gives him a cigar to burn it off. A ghost trap shows up and Monroe talks to them. Apparently they have a dead white guy with a TraviCom symbol on his shirt. Karen's concerned. Do you think she buys Monroe's comforting?
The Mizumo have several levels of dead. Someone's not dead until they're completely dead.
It's Bob, a research assistant. He went through a traumatic experience with gorillas, so when he sees Amy, he dies. Karen tells him about the great gorilla, the dead team, missing Charlie, and then they get in boats and go down the river. Curry says that Amy's been drawing the same symbol that is on the city full of diamonds. It's getting late, and they're rafting at night towards a memorable scene. Monroe tells them to get their guns ready.
Oh my god.
They only lost one boat. They get to shore and they see a plane flying overhead, but it's on fire and it crashes. The next day they wake to see two of the guys had already run off, and Amy leads them through the jungle, and they run into that plane, but there doesn't seem to be any noticeable survivors. And then they run into a silverback gorilla. Peter doesn't run, and there's a family of gorillas, but they don't seem to care about Amy. Later that day they trip a perimeter alarm, but all the equipment and everybody in the camp is gone. They find a passageway through thick leaves and discover the city of Zinj. Curry says King Solomon built this city around this mine of diamonds, and they don't know why everybody left. I'm guessing killer gorillas. Richard stays outside with a few men and Amy as the rest head inside, and Karen shouts out for Charlie, and then Richard runs into a grey gorilla, and next we see him running inside, all covered in blood, and then he dies. Where'd you get the energy to run, bro?
Help me! Help me! Richard! Let me go! Let me go!
No! Richard! Oh my god, something!
Gorillas attack, but they manage to get outside and they find more of their friends dead. And then they set up tents outside, like a few meters away from the dead. Like, that seems like a really bad location. Karen has sensor-operated machine guns she uses to set up the perimeter and says it will light anything up that tries to cross the links. And then she uses this purple light as they test the perimeter. Amy tries again to make friends with the silverbacks, but they're just not interested. Then they head out to find Curry, who disappeared in the night with a couple of men, obviously in search of the diamonds. And then Karen talks dirty to Peter.
Here, Peter, take this.
I don't like guns.
I didn't ask you if you like it. Take it.
Peter says they domesticated the gorillas, but then they turn against their master. The volcano acts up, and inside the mine is a ton of diamonds, but they are being watched. The killer gorillas have guarded these treasures for centuries. More likely it's just the territory they've become familiar with. And Curry goes off a little too far and doesn't survive.
Look out!
Everybody's shooting, and all the secondary characters and extras, well, they don't survive either. And Karen inside this little cave finds Charlie. Bruce Campbell's dead. Peter and Monroe are to buy Karen a couple of minutes so she can set up her laser, and then Peter gets pulled out and surrounded by apes, and Amy protects her. But they kill apes, so Karen's got to get her lightsaber laser up and running. And then this must be the end of the movie because the volcano's going off now too.
What the hell are you doing anyway?
What am I doing? I'll tell you what I'm doing. We're getting out of here.
We are. What about them?
Put him on the endangered species list. Come on, Monroe!
The three of them and Amy run as the ground's caving in and lava is everywhere. Karen has to laser a tree down so that Peter can cross it, and they get back to the plane. She says, look for the balloon. Karen calls home and talks to RB and says that Charlie's dead, but he only seems to care about the diamonds, and she warned him if that was the case, she was going to destroy them. So she sets up the laser and blows up his satellite. Peter and Amy say goodbye as the gorillas are going to accept her now. It takes Peter a minute to accept that she's leaving. I mean, the volcano's still going, guys.
Oh, look at that.
Is that Amy with
The silverback. So she's... I see.
They get up in the hot air balloon and let the wind take them, hopefully away from rocket launchers. They set a budget of $50 million and a box office of $152 million, so that's not bad. The cast was pretty solid with Warren Linney, Dylan Walsh, Ernie Hudson, Tim Curry, and Bruce Campbell, though of course I'm going to complain that Bruce Campbell's part was so freaking small. As for production, Michael Crichton decided to write a screenplay for Sean Connery to play this great white hunter like an Alan Quartermain. Crichton successfully pitched the movie to 20th Century Fox, however the film ran into problems and Crichton learned that they could not use real gorillas to portray the character of Amy, which led to him leaving the project. It was then offered to Spielberg and then John Carpenter before Frank Marshall came on. It was nominated for a lot of awards. It didn't win any of them. There was a lot of improvements that needed to be made in this. In the end, I think they just wasted too much time trying to get to Africa. I mean, I didn't really care about their travel plans. They should have spent more time with the hippos. Those things were freaking scary. And killer apes. barely utilized in this. They should have just stayed in Africa with Bruce Campbell, maybe sent out another team to meet up with them so they had more people to kill and dealt with these killer apes, because that was the whole point of the movie, was the scary part, and they didn't have enough of it. Well, maybe the next killer ape movie would be more scary. As always, thanks for watching.